Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode, and this is the show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week and everything in between. This week I had 20 books to cover, so let's get started. What was number 20? And that was Batgirl in the Birds of Prey issue 18. This was just kind of a one-shot issue of Huntress going into a mission from Spiral. The Birds of Prey help, you know, Batgirl and Black Canary, and by the end, Huntress is like, I don't want to do Spiral anymore, I'm with you guys, and that's it. I just felt like the mission was kind of boring, and also, I didn't really like the artwork. It felt messy to me, it wasn't very sleek, and I just didn't really get the character moments I wanted with an issue like this, especially a one-shot issue that was, again, kind of forgettable. So, Batgirl and the Birds of Prey issue 18 from me gets 2 stars. If you're a Grayson fan, maybe you want to pick it up, but other than that, I don't think it's a very necessary issue to read for the scope of Birds of Prey in general. Now moving on to number 19, which is X-Men Blue issue 19, which I think I'm going to decide to drop soon. I guess with the next issue I'm going to finish up the arc and then it goes into the Poisons, which I decided not to pick up anyways. But yeah, I gave it obviously a huge try, but I just haven't really felt invested to this book. I mean, this was a little bit better than what we've been getting with the whole X-Men 2009 stuff, but I'm still not really feeling invested. Even bringing Magneto and Charles Xavier into the story, for some reason I haven't been able to feel engrossed. I feel like the artwork is not the best. The coloring's kind of all over the place, and same for the storyline. I don't feel like I hear a lot of the characters' voices here, and that's a big problem for a team book. So overall, I'm going to give X-Men Blue 2 stars, and that is number 19. Moving on to number 18, which is Action Comics issue 995. The parts I really liked here was definitely Lois. I enjoyed her character, her going undercover to try to find out what's been going on with her father. It's a very small portion of the issue though. The rest is Booster Gold and Superman, and I feel like going back to Krypton is so repetitive of, I know it's like future, not Krypton, I'm sorry. It's like the future with Booster Gold, and he sees his father, and then, you know, Superman sees Zod, and this kind of Elseworld storyline. And I feel like it's similar to stuff we've already hit on with Action Comics, but I get the whole theme of fathers. I mean, that's literally what it's about. You see Booster Gold's dad, you get to see Superman's relationship with his own father, which with the whole Oz effect, and obviously Lois with her father. So I like that. I just felt bored at a lot of moments because I'm not a huge Booster Gold fan. And again, I feel like some of this Krypton storyline is a bit repetitive because we had the Oz effect and all these other storylines. So Action Comics issue 995 for me gets 2.5 stars. And it was nice to see Brian Buccellado's, not Brian Buccellato, I'm sorry, Brett Boots' artwork with this book. But it also feels a little jarring because it, you know, I'm so used to seeing Brett Boots' artwork with like Titans, and we usually get a different style with Action Comics. Alright, moving on to number 17, which is She-Hulk issue 161. So I like the ending here of Jen finally realizing, alright, I need to get some help, but the actual monster versus monster fight didn't do it for me, and I think it was the artwork being so simple. I just didn't feel like the action really jumped on the page for me. And also I think even Jen's inner monologue is not as strong as it was in Hulk, even though it's the same writer. I just don't get the emotion and the psychological journey I got with previous issues of Hulk, really. So She-Hulk issue 161 gets 2.5 stars, and that was number 17, I believe? Yes. So now we're moving on to number 16, which is Avengers. For some reason, I think I put the wrong number. I think I put Avengers issue 27, but I feel like that's not the right numbering. So it's this week's Avengers, and this starts the new story arc of World's Ending Avengers storyline, and that old Avenger, one of the original Avengers, coming back, and obviously this person wasn't an original Avenger in regular continuity, so how's this possible? What's the storyline? And that's kind of, again, what the arc's about. But with this issue, I felt like it was just trying to get the plot together, you know? It didn't really matter what characters were in here. They're all just like, we gotta run! The world's ending! Oh no! Oh look, it's that other Avenger character! So it all was just putting pieces together in this issue, but it wasn't very interesting the way it happened, in my opinion. Artwork was okay, but it didn't hook me for this storyline. I'm gonna give it a couple more issues, but don't know how long I'm going to be sticking with this. I mean, I haven't previously read Avengers in a while, because I haven't been really liking Avengers, but because of this arc, I was like, alright, it's going to be a big Marvel arc, let me pick it up. And I'm still not buying it yet. So, you know, buying that this is a big arc, but yeah, so we'll see. I gave this one 2.5 stars, so we'll see if the next issue does better. Next is number 15, which is Superwoman issue 18. This is the final issue of Superwoman, and I was a little disappointed. I've been up and down with Superwoman. I've always loved Lana as a character. I've always been interested in her character, and I like that she had this hero journey, but in the end it's very null and void. She doesn't have her powers anymore. She's like, this is the way I could be a hero. And I think the reason I was so disappointed is because the way she sacrificed herself was for like a lackluster villain. I didn't really like Lena and the other robot character, so I feel like that's why I was so disappointed with the ending. The artwork is solid though. I like the colors, I like the pencils here, but story was a bit disappointing. It makes it feel like this whole series wasn't really worth reading, and I hate endings like that. So I gave Superwoman issue 18 2.5 stars, and that was number 15. Moving on to number 14, this is a little higher than usual, and that is Detective Comics issue 972. If you like Clayface, I think you're going to enjoy it. I did like the story of, you know, them seeing Clayface as a villain and him painted as this villain, but I like that was Cass who really talks to him and says, oh, I kind of don't want to be this person. That's all that really happens in this issue. I kind of wish a little more had happened and we get a little less scattered storyline. I kind of wish they just focused on Clayface, because you do get to see Batwoman and Tim, their confrontation that's been going on. But I like the Clayface story for the most part, and I think it was a bit more entertaining than what we've been getting. So Detective Comics issue 972 gets 3 stars. Moving on to number 13, which is Venom issue 160. Now, this arc has been weird. It's okay. If you like Venom, it's this action-packed, non-apologetic kind of Venom storyline, but there's not a lot of substance here. It's definitely more just for the action in this issue, and that's fun. You know, the artwork was good, so that's why I kind of put it up higher. I think that the artwork did well with the, you know, action-packed issue like this. I think the humor was pretty good. The interaction, which is exactly what you want with a crossover, was fun for the most part. But the actual story does not have a lot of substance. It's still just like, oh, we gotta go up against Lee Price, and that's kind of it. But I kind of wish there was a little bit more story here, but overall, it's an okay issue. I don't know if it's totally worth picking up, but if you're a big Venom fan, I guess, you know, try it out. So Venom issue 160 gets 3 stars. Now, moving on to number 12, which is Titans issue 19. And I feel like there was a lot of good character moments here. I liked Roy and Donna, especially them interacting with each other post-Titans breakup. But this is also a story we've seen a billion times. The Justice League says, hey, you are not ready. You shouldn't be a team. Disband. And they do. Especially because the last story arc was so much about them being separated in a way, and them, Troya wanting to separate them. It was that nice conclusion of, like, finally, they're together. Let's see them as a team. And then they're disbanded again by the Justice League, which is, again, just so cliche for a Titan storyline. Artwork was good, though. I like the art. I think it's feels like classic Teen Titans artwork here. So the story was okay. Character moments were good, so I think it's kind of on the borderline of picking up. But if you're a huge Titans fan, you know, go for it. So Titans issue 19 gets 3 stars. Moving on to number 11, which is Phoenix Resurrection issue 3. I feel like the artwork is getting you know, less detailed as it goes along. I like the artwork from the beginning, but now there's like some of these awkward faces. But overall, it's fine artwork. I just think for a big event like this, I want even stronger, gorgeous artwork. Right now, it's just kind of average middle ground artwork for me. But the story's interesting. We get to see Jean kind of figuring out this world that she's living in might not actually be real. So it's her confronting her past, which is really interesting. And the other X-Men are just kind of going along for the ride of, oh, oh, what should we do? I do love Kitty's interaction with Emma, though. You don't see Emma for a second. I'm like, it's totally Emma, because I love their, hateful relationship with each other. So that was cool. So overall, I gave it 3.5 stars. It wasn't a mind-blowing issue, but I liked what the X-Men were doing. I liked what Jean was doing for the most part. It's still a fun book so far. So Phoenix Resurrections issue 3 gets 3.5 stars, and that was number 11. So now moving on to number 10, which is Hack and Slash vs. Vampirella issue 4. Not as good as the last issue. Last issue, I think we had a lot of great character moments. We learned a little bit more about the villain, and I like that you actually got the versus match you wanted. Here, it's very much just action issue of, oh, let's run away from our villain and kind of regroup of what we should do. There's still some fun moments between Vampirella and Hack and Slash. There's like some flirting in the issue in one of the panels. But yeah, it's still a fun crossover, and I think it's one that you shouldn't miss if you like these characters. So Hack and Slash vs. Vampirella issue 4 gets 3.5 stars. Now moving on to number 9, which is a little lower for this book than usual, but the Archies issue 4. Now if you're a Monkeys fan, you definitely should pick this up. What I liked about it was definitely just kind of the classicness of it. We get to see Joe Eisma does the regular modern art for Archie, and then when Archie hits his head and has the dream of meeting the monkeys, he goes classic Archie, and very much what's going on is very classic, like Scooby-Doo type storyline. I mean, sometimes it's silly, that's the thing. It is a very silly storyline, but it feels classic, and that's kind of the fun aspect of it. So turn your brain off. You're going to enjoy this issue. So the Archies issue 4 gets 3.5 stars, and that is number 9. Now moving on to number 8, which is XMen Gold Annual Issue 1. Glad to see XMen Gold a bit higher than it has been, but I like this. I've never been a huge Excalibur fan. It's actually one of the only series I didn't really read fully with Kitty. Everything else I've read with Kitty. So, yeah, but Excalibur, this was fun. It was just Kitty, Kurt, and Rachel meeting up with previous teammates. They have a baby. The baby's smarter than them. They fight, a villain that doesn't really matter in the issue, but it's cool just seeing this interaction and them, going on a plane in that wasn't like first class or a jet. It's cool just to see those small moments, that them not being the X-Men and just being people. But still having the fights of the X-Men that we all love. And then the ending story, the backstory was really good too, of this girl who wants to meet Storm, who's her, icon or hero, and everyone's saying bad things about mutants, but she doesn't care. She just wants to meet Storm, and then in the end she ends up meeting Storm. So it was a cool backstory too, and usually with annuals sometimes one story is really good and the other one's like, whatever, but I'm glad both stories were really solid, and overall had fun. The artwork was really good for both of them too. Well, I would say the artwork for the second story was better, but the first story had solid artwork as well. There's some times where the faces looked a little weird, but overall, I like the joy that came out of the emotions in that first storyline. But yeah, XMen Gold Annual for me gets 4 stars. I thought it was very solid, and if you like Excalibur, especially pick this up. But even so, I think both stories were a lot of fun. So that was number 8, I believe, and now we're moving on to number 7, which is Witchblade issue 2. I do feel, I love the character here. I really like Alex Underwood. I think they've developed her really well, and they continue to do that in this issue. But some of the structure is a little off for me. There's times where I feel like the transitions of scenes are a little weird. You don't really know when a lot of things are happening because there's not any banners to really give you an idea. I think there's maybe one banner in this issue saying 2 days ago, but there's a lot of jumping from different scenes that I feel like those transitions could be better, and then I think this could be an even more enjoyable read. But overall, I liked it. Maybe I need a little bit more Witchblade action. I want that, but I really love the character and her voice here, which is very important. So Witchblade also has some beautiful artwork. Love the tone with the coloring and the pencils. Just love the artwork here. So yeah, Witchblade issue 2 for me gets a solid 4 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Wonder Woman issue 38, which has really been better for me in the last arc and now this arc, where we get to see Silver Swan's new origins of this girl who thought Wonder Woman was her friend after she saved her, and Wonder Woman just stopped visiting her, and she kind of gets jealous, and then she ends up killing this family that Wonder Woman saves. And I also like how they balanced the Jason storyline here too. Wonder Woman's trying to balance her own family while also being a hero. It's a really cool issue from a different perspective, and an interesting villain issue of kind of a character that's not just a mustache twirler, but it has a bit more depth because of this issue and her point of view. So Wonder Woman issue 38 also has some gorgeous artwork with Lupacchino joining the crew here. I love their artwork. It's just, especially for Wonder Woman, I think it's just so beautiful and it fits the beauty but strength that Wonder Woman has. So I really like the artwork there. So Wonder Woman issue 38 for me gets a solid 4 stars, and that is number 6. Now moving on to number 5, which is Bloodshot Salvation issue 5. Been loving this title. It really got me into Valiant, so I'm happy for this book. And this is just a really interesting issue where we get to see our main character, Bloodshot, kill Magic's father, you know, as a big thing, but in the end, that revenge really doesn't do anything. And I love the ninjak action scene. And then in the present, we were with Magic and with their child and trying to find Bloodshot, which is pretty interesting. I really love the back and forth. I think that's one of the best aspects of the book. And we get to see, I believe we get to see Ninjak at both portions. Yeah, Ninjak is in the present. No, actually, yeah, he's in the present and he's in the future storyline. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, Bloodshot Salvation, some gorgeous artwork. This is the past artwork, and then the present's a little bit more darker, which I do like though. There you go. And then you also see the villain that was built up from issue 4. You get to see some of their storyline, and now you completely understand their storyline and what their motives are. But very solid issue. So Bloodshot Salvation issue 5 gets 4 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Miss Marvel issue 26. I did like issue 25 a little more, but I had a blast with issue 26, especially because I am a big Zoe fan. And seeing her just saying, oh, I know CrossFit, now I know how to be a hero, and she totally doesn't, and she runs away from this evil frog. But then she used her smarts to kind of figure out what's going on. She sees that the nursing home is being picked on, and I forgot who else was being picked on, but she sees that it's these groups that wouldn't be noticed, and that's why she goes to the nursing home and like teams up with the nursing home in a way to figure out who this villain is. And we find out it's actually the inventor, who I believe was actually one of the first villains of Miss Marvel, or at least, yeah, I would say one of the first. I don't know. I think it actually was the first. So the first villain of Miss Marvel, which wasn't my favorite villain, but again, at least there's history there. And I just love seeing these supporting characters that have been built so well in this book getting the spotlight they deserve. And honestly, as much as I love Kamala, it's cool to kind of just see these voices, and it shows that these supporting characters are so strong, where you're not like, where's Kamala, you know, like I want her back. And not that I don't miss Kamala, but it doesn't take away from how fun these Avengers are. So I like it. I think it's a solid issue, and I really like this arc. Can't wait to see where it goes. So Miss Marvel issue 26 gets 4 stars, and that is number 4. Now moving on to number 3, which is Archie issue 27. And I will say, I think this would have been a little higher if not for the simple artwork. There are times where I think it's a little bit too simple, but it meets, you know, it fits the slice of life look this is going for. But I like this as kind of a season finale of Archie, where we get to see Archie has to make a choice, which he's horrible at doing, between Veronica and Betty. And he decides, Betty, I'm gonna go out with Betty. And then Betty's like, unless you are totally gonna be devoted and you know, be okay with this decision, we'll go out, but I don't think you will. I think you'll change your mind. So Betty pretty much says no in the end, and Archie doesn't have anyone. So Veronica and Betty don't go out with Archie, which I think is a nice spin on this love triangle. And also that it's more about Betty and Veronica's growth. With Betty, you know, with the beginning arc of the series, Betty was like, oh, I just want Archie to talk to me type thing. They were both tiptoeing around each other. They were never straightforward of what happened with the lipstick incident. But now with everything that's happened with Betty, she's straightforward. She's like, all right, do you like me? Do you not? I need the answers, you know? And I liked how much Betty has grown there, and obviously with everything that's happened. But I think the most impressive arc is Veronica, where we get to see Veronica in the beginning was, oh, it's all about her. It's all about her relationship with Archie. But now she just wants what's best for Archie and what's best for her best friend Betty. And she decides to leave Archie because of that. So it's a really interesting story, and it puts the love triangle on its head, you know, something that could be so cliche and is very cliche for Archie. They do something different with it, and I really enjoyed this issue. So Archie issue 27 gets 4.5 stars, and that is number 3. Now moving on to number 2, this I believe is the first time that's made my top 5. I've been enjoying this series, and that is Mr. Miracle issue 6. Damn, the structure for this issue is so good, where we get to see Big Barda and Mr. Miracle are running towards the throne room of Orion, and they're just talking about home improvement. They're like auditioning for an HGTV show. Not actually really, but it feels that way. But anyways, they're talking about their rooms, and you have a feeling she might be pregnant, and then she reveals that she's pregnant, and Mr. Miracle, this is the reason he's going to this throne room is to die. So it's interesting to see this idea of life and death, and obviously what's going to end up happening. So I really enjoyed this issue. I love kind of the mundane conversation they have as they do this adventure, and that these are gods, you know, and seeing what they went through with Granny Goodness and their different perspectives on their childhood. So I really enjoyed this issue. I think it's the best issue of Mr. Miracle so far. Again, structure-wise and just story-wise. So Mr. Miracle issue 6 for me gets 4.5 stars. Moving on to number 1, which is Runaways issue 5. This is the obvious one. I believe Runaways has been my pick of the week ever since issue 1. So I love this issue though. I like that it's the Runaways kind of broken. They are all in different pieces. So you have Chase and Victor interacting, Gert and Molly interacting, and then Carolina and Nico. First I'm going to go with Chase and Victor, because I think they have the least in this issue. But still fun that Victor's finally kind of announced, hey, I'm alive, and the facial expressions for this book are so good, but especially between Chase and Victor with this storyline, where Chase finds out that Victor is alive. Like, look at this. It's so precious, and I love just the energy that's brought to this book. So I really enjoyed that. And then going to Gert and Molly, I really love their interaction, and especially if you watch the show, they're sisters in the show pretty much, and you kind of see that sisterly love in this comic, where Molly's like, hey, if you don't want to be here, you don't have to, please. I think you should go because my grandma's evil. And it goes back to parents always being evil, or adults always being evil. And what I like about this storyline though, well, first of all, it's seeing the day-to-day life of Molly, which is cool, and how Gert is interacting into that, and Gert just kind of following along, trying to figure out who she is after her death and losing 2 years. She's still dealing with that. But it's Molly showing that she's grown up. 2 years is big, especially as someone who's 11 turning to 13. That's a big age gap, or, you know, a big turning point for a person. And with Molly, she's always was the type of person to go into things head on. She just wanted to punch something. And here you see the difference. She's really playing a strategy with her grandmother and trying to plan this runaway. She uses her smarts to understand that her grandma might not be the best person. So she's not dumb by any means. She's not like, oh, but she's my grandma. But she does have complicated feelings. She does say, yeah, she wants to do this, but she's still my grandma, you know, I still love her. She still gives me cookies. So I do like this complex feelings, but it's not her being like totally mindless to her grandma at the same time. So it's cool that she, even though her superpowers is super strength, that's not exactly what she uses here to get away from the villain. So I really like those points. Now going into Nico and Carolina, Carolina's my favorite character, and Nico's getting there as maybe my second favorite. It always was Molly, but I think Nico and Molly are kind of teaming, you know, side by side here. But I really like this scene. I think there's so much to analyze because Carolina comes and visits and says, hey, Julie told me where you live, and Nico's like, oh, okay. Team's not getting back together, so go back home pretty much. And Then Nico tries to kiss Carolina, and it's the same exact scene we saw when Carolina tries to kiss Nico when she comes out, and, you know, everyone finds out that, that she's gay. So it's interesting that they do that parallel, and again, goes back to the artwork and the scripting of seeing that exact scene, except on the opposite side. Let me see if I can find it. So that was cool, and you do wonder, is it because Nico has feelings for Carolina? I think there's definitely two ways to analyze it, because I feel after the almost kiss in Volume 2, Nico did maybe have different feelings about Carolina, but it was always too late, and that's always a story. It was, you know, was never the right timing, especially for a teenage story, / young adult story. Maybe it's not always the best timing, and I think that's with Nico here. It was never the best timing, because Carolina was with Zaven then, and now she's with Julie. So I really like that. Maybe Nico does still have feelings for Carolina, but then there's also the other turning point of maybe Nico's just really lonely, and she just wants to make that connection with Carolina because she knows Carolina likes her and always had. So there's just a lot of interesting, complicated feelings there, which is why I think that is definitely one of the best scenes of the story, and I think there's so much great build up to get there. I think their relationship always has been building up there. They have a very complicated relationship, but that's what I love about their friendship. But yeah, this issue is really well done because it's the separate pieces of this broken family and then them finally coming together by the end and saving Molly and Gert. And I just love the artwork there. They're all ready for action because the series actually has not had a lot of Runaways action, which I've been okay with. But now we're finally kind of getting into that action sequence. So Runaways issue 5 for me gets 4.5 stars. I love the book and it was 100% an easy pick of the week for me. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links to my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.